Welcome into Locked On Knicks. Alex Wolfe and Gavin Schall here. And the Knicks lost to the Celtics in their third preseason game, but kind of hilariously pulled the same trick on the Celtics that they pulled on the Knicks last week for their first preseason game and played basically all backups. So not a ton of real life season stuff to draw from here, but Quentin Grimes had an amazing game, shot the leather off the ball. Deuce McBride continued being aggressive. Isaiah Roby maybe made a case for himself to be on this team beyond when we get past the cut deadline at the end of the preseason. So lots to talk about next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, and we want to thank you guys for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. We appreciate you making us a part of your daily routine. Make sure you hit that auto download function on your favorite podcast app or the notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an episode, because we're here for you guys 5, sometimes 6, sometimes 7, not to go all like early 2010s Miami Heat on you, but 5, 6, 7 times a week potentially, especially with the season coming up so soon. We got lots to talk about, so make sure you never miss an episode. And if you want to take your relationship with us one step further and start going steady with Locked On Knicks, you can check us out on Subtext, where you can text us right from the messaging app on your phone and get the latest news, updates, and opinions from us throughout the season. So definitely check that out. I'm Alex Wolfe. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, which you can find at strict.land. And he is Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. And the Knicks lost, I forget what the final score even was, 123-110 to the Celtics. That part is not super important, Gavin. The Celtics, clearly this was their dress rehearsal. I think it was their final preseason game, the fourth one for them. And the Knicks pretty clearly are going to have their dress rehearsal tomorrow on the second night of this back-to-back, where they're going to probably trot out their true starting lineup, maybe run at least a faux version of a normal half in the first half. But knowing Tibbs, maybe this will be his opportunity to get a full game in there, just kind of get these guys ready to go for next week. But no matter what, tonight, starting lineup of Deuce McBride, Dante DiVincenzo, Quentin Grimes, Jericho Sims, Mitchell Robinson. Hopefully the only time we see that starting lineup this year, because if that's the starting lineup in the regular season at any point other than the last like 3 games of the season, if the Knicks have clinched or something, then something has gone horribly wrong this year. But I thought there was one huge, enormous. I feel like I'm Dwight in that episode of The Office when he's going to Michael with the problem, and he's like, "I have a huge, enormous, big picture problem that I need your help with." But one huge, enormous, awesome thing for the Knicks is that Quentin Grimes seems to have gotten his groove back. 7 of 13 shooting overall, 7 of 12 from 3. So clearly most of that production was from 3 for 22 points, 2 boards, 3 assists, and a steal. I thought just a true return to form for Quentin Grimes, to the second half Quentin Grimes like we saw last year.
Yeah, he was awesome in this game, Alex. I thought this was when I heard about an hour before the game that essentially all of the Knicks key players outside of Grimes, or at least their essential starters, well, Mitchell Robinson too, most of the Knicks key players were going to miss this game. All I could think about was, wow, this is a golden opportunity for Quentin Grimes going up against one of the better collection of perimeter defenders in the NBA to sort of stake his claim and say, hey, if you give me more of an opportunity, here's what I can do. And my God, did he do that? Just a variety of 3-pointers, like hit a quick trigger one around a Mitchell Robinson screen. He put one off of like a little bit of a step back in Kristaps Porzingis' eye, had like a pull-up sidestep 3 just coming up the court on Sam Hauser, had a couple nice drives that mostly led to passes. I would have wanted to see him attack the rim a little bit more, but much like when I complained about that in the first preseason game, Alex, I had to kind of remind myself of the caveat. All right, Jericho Sims and Mitchell Robinson were both on the floor, and the Celtics at times were putting 2 7-footers out there, which is really, really hard to finish against and attack the rim against. But just the level of confidence that he showed in his jump shot. He's always had a beautiful jump shot, but I thought that in this game and honestly throughout the preseason, it's looked a little bit more effortless. And I'll credit some of the work that he put in with JJ Redick over the summer. JJ, I mean, on top of having also one of the prettier jump shots in NBA history, he was famous for being one of the better conditioned guys in the entire NBA. And I think we're seeing that from Grimes now with a shot that is beautiful, but has all these parts and he gets all this elevation on and it's over his head. It can be a lot of effort. And I think that can sometimes affect it later in games. It looks smooth from the first shot. And he got up a ton of them in this game. And to me, it was him kind of like staring down Tom Thibodeau and saying, hey, some of those shots RJ takes, some of the shots Julius takes should be my shots.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think the other thing is that the ball will just find him a lot too. A lot of these were just the Knicks, for all their flaws in this game. And look, it was a probable top 2 seed in the East, throwing out all of their players to try to get everybody ready to go for the season against the Knicks second and third stringers. So like, there's only so much you can glean from like what the score ended up being, but the way that they were playing was really great. I mean, I thought that there was a lot that the regular starting lineup can kind of take notes on as far as the drive, kick, swing, and just finding the right guy on the perimeter. And a lot of times that right guy was Quentin Grimes. And what's nice is that he could be that guy, early in the shot clock, late in the shot clock, in transition. I mean, it's pretty much any situation where you can find Quentin Grimes open is a good one if he's shooting like this. And I think that this was kind of the game where he finally sort of like found his rhythm again. And hopefully this is the one where, if he plays again in tomorrow's game, or by the time people are listening to this, tonight's game in the preseason finale for the Knicks, and can keep this going, hopefully that's enough to carry him into the regular season. And we'll just see this like 40 to 41% Grimes on super high volume for a whole season that we really, really want to see, because it just, I agree with you. Like his shot looks, it's not different per se, but he's really found a new gear of consistency. I think the way that he gets up and down with it, to your point, how high up he jumps when he shoots, which is super valuable for getting that shot off anywhere, because he's tall enough. Like he's got good shooting guard size, but now to be able to kind of get that extra little bit of elevation, that means that even if like a 4-man is closing out on him, he's still got plenty of space.
Look, he got one over off. KP, who was 7'3". That kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, for sure. And because Porzingis is one of those guys like Mitch that, dating all the way back to when he was on the Knicks, shows he could block your shot on the perimeter if you're not getting high enough up, and if you're not, getting that off with perfect form. And that's what Grimes does. So yeah, I feel great about him after this game. I was, I wasn't like worried, but I was kind of just like being cautious, with how he was in the first couple preseason games, kind of steeling myself up for like, okay, maybe things are going to start a little slow for him. We know he'll find it eventually, but this game did a lot to kind of ease whatever small concerns I had with Grimes to this point in the preseason.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. Like it was just not only to prove himself, but it was a great chance for him to get in rhythm. And that was true for basically everyone in this game. I mean, the collective effort is really what flashed to me from this entire Knicks team. It reminded me of, you referenced it in the intro, the early 2010s Miami Heat. And you would have occasionally these national TV games where they would go and play the Spurs, and Greg Popovich, seemingly just to be a dick, like would rest everyone for the national TV game. Everyone would be like, it's going to be a blowout. And the Heat would probably go out to like a 20-point lead, and the Spurs would slowly come back and you're like, hey, is Matt Bonner? Like I'm kind of half watching. He made 4 threes in a row, and they would work their way back. And that's what this game felt like. The Celtics were up by 27 at one point. It was 70-43. And the Knicks cut it all the way down to 8. It was 91-83 late in the third quarter. Maybe could have gotten a little bit closer. Didn't really have another run in them. Tibbs, when the Celtics actually put in the guys who the Knicks should have been going against, like the second and third stringers for them. The Knicks at that point had taken out Grimes. They'd mostly taken out Deuce. DiVincenzo left pretty early in the fourth quarter. So they didn't have a chance to close this out. But I thought it was a pretty awesome comeback. And as much as Quentin Grimes was a big part of it, Deuce McBride was just as significant, particularly his effort on the defensive end. But Alex, before we talk about that, I wanted to talk about a company that is always giving their best effort and always shining, whether you're on the court or off. And that is our buddies over at Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs have, this might sound like I'm overstating things, but I'm really not. They've changed my life. I've said it many a time on this show. I don't think I've gotten compliments on my clothing in my life, but it's like a once a year thing. And if I'm being fully honest, it's almost not intentional. It's something like I put on without even thinking about it. And people are like, oh, that's nice. I'm like, oh, that's surprising. I don't really think about what I'm wearing that much. But with Bird Dogs, man, oh man, Alex, the compliments are rolling and they make you look good and they feel fantastic. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. And Bird Dog fixed that issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. And this is really cool because I love playing basketball in them. They use anti-stink, sweat-wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. They're functional for any occasion. You can wear them on a date. You can go golf. You can wear them for a pool party. They are seriously the most versatile piece of clothing I have in my wardrobe. So if you want to get in on the action, go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or enter promo code LockedOnNBA. Check out for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. And Alex, the New York Knicks, they're probably going to do it, but they're going to be reluctant to do it. They won't want to take Deuce McBride off the court. Only shot 6 for 18 in this game, but I think that belies what was a fantastic effort from 16 points, 6 assists, 4 steals, couple of just flashy moments defensively, and just seems super confident in his jumper again on offense.
Yeah, not even just super flashy defensively, but offensively too. I mean, he was the one guy in this game, other than which I'm sure we'll talk about in the final segment when we just cover our final bases, but like the Mitch and Jericho Sims 2-man fast break made my jaw drop a little bit as one of the more unique moments that we'll ever see. But the Deuce managed to put my jaw on the floor a couple times with stuff that he was capable of in this game. First off, the shooting, like you said, catching and shooting, but also shooting off the dribble and looking great with it. I mean, you'll look at the box score and say, well, you only shot 33% and only 25% from 3. But, I think it's more the process with him still at this point. He's going to have to, at some point, find a rhythm and find consistency in those shots. But as of right now, I kind of just like him looking less tentative. We do know that that's for all of Tibbs's great traits, that some of his greatest flaws are that he definitely does seem to make younger players feel on edge as far as their playing time, not being secure, and that you see that reflect in their body language and in their shots and their shot profile, where sometimes they seem reluctant to shoot the ball and whatever. Didn't see any of that from Deuce in this one. And when he looked great, he looked amazing. And the 2 plays that stood out to me was just him getting inside as well. And the one in particular just really, really made me go like, ooh, all right. So that's in his bag then.
Was that the one on Tatum where he threw it like 8 feet up in the air?
Yep.
And on the Celtics broadcast, Brian Scalabrine compared him to Allen Iverson.
Well, there you go. I mean, they didn't go quite that lofty on the MSG broadcast. In fact, Kenny Albert just couldn't keep track of these non-main cast Knicks and who was even like making shots or whatever all night long. It was kind of crazy.
I heard him call someone Dave DeBuscher at one point, so that's when I knew we were having issues. But yeah,
a little bit. But yeah, the one shot where he got inside and with Tatum pretty well covering him just through this like crazy finesse layup high off glass that just dropped in perfectly. I mean, that was the one to me where I said, that's a new from Deuce. I can't recall ever seeing that from him. And that's kind of exactly what we keep asking him to do. He went all the way to the hoop against a AAA superstar NBA player and finished against him. And I think that's something that Deuce can do more of if he feels inclined to, and maybe could be something that starts turning the discussion into like, does Deuce need to be a rotation player somehow, some way on this team, even if it's just for a few minutes a game?
Look, we'll talk about it in our pod next week, but we're both proudly on Deuce Island, just floating in that bowl on our single log, and we're going to stay there confidently as long as we need to. The 6 for 18 is not a big deal because he was going up against Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White. Like I said it before with Grimes, but that is as good of a defensive foursome as you will see. And like, again, he just kept coming. Like, he hit a contested 3 early in this game. There were multiple like possessions where it seemed like the Celtics had just kind of bullied him into giving up, but he never actually gave up. Like one, they just kind of left him at the last second and he hit a really long 2. Another one, Tatum, he didn't need to, but he came over and helped a little bit and he hit Grimes for an open 3. He crossed up Peyton Pritchard on one play that finished over Horford. And that was the play where I was like, all right, his handle, like it's not great. And that was kind of one of the biggest questions for him coming out of West Virginia. Like, how functional would it be? And like, would it be at a high enough level for him to play point guard in the NBA? I still don't think it's great, but it's clearly gotten better. Just some awesome moments defensively, like one where he like bodied up Jaylen Brown on a drive and then picked his pocket. And I think you kind of saw Jaylen almost look shocked after the play. And the very next possession, like Isaiah Hartenstein recovered at that time, but then the play after, like he got on the ground to get a loose ball. Like it was just, I think it was what I was most looking forward to when I heard these guys were going to be playing. But just the attitude, the toughness that these guys play with. And Alex, you could take it anywhere next, whether it's like Isaiah Hartenstein, Jericho Sims, Mitchell Robinson, Dante DiVincenzo. I think all those guys flash those traits in this game, even if outside of Grimes, none of them were particularly hot from the field.
Yeah, and there is still plenty to talk about because there's Isaiah Roby, who played pretty well. As you said, Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, both showing what they've got to offer against a team that challenged them in a way, and yet those two guys, despite getting maybe a little burned from three by the bigger shooters on the Celtics and Porzingis, Horford, etc., still managed to put together a pretty good effort. Jericho Sims, I thought, played really well, and DiVincenzo. So we'll talk about them in the next segment to kind of wrap this game up here and get to the rest of the players. But first, I do have to remind everybody that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And by and more, I mean same-game parlays. Check them out. It's my absolute favorite bet. Maybe a little dicey during preseason. If you're feeling really adventurous, maybe bet on this final preseason game because the Knicks should be playing their starters and should be running a somewhat normal rotation to get ready for the regular season. But especially once that regular season starts, super fun. You pick how many points you think any given player is going to get, how many rebounds another player, how many assists another player on top of that. And you could just build this like multi-leg bet that could potentially pay you a lot more than what you put in if you hit on all the things and if you're super smart. So definitely check that out. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season and, of course, the NBA season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, Gavin, we're back in to continue, to sort of wrap up our coverage of this second and last preseason game, the penultimate preseason game before what we presume will be the full dress rehearsal tonight in the final preseason game before the Knicks get about a week off, or actually exactly a week off before their season opener. But I think the next guy I want to talk about is it crazy if it's Isaiah Roby? I mean, I've not spoken super highly of him this summer. I've kind of written him off a lot. The number of times he came up and people in YouTube comments, are
I was gonna say,
yeah, like people in the YouTube comments are like, "Oh, you guys are sleeping on Roby. He's a multi-year NBA player." Blah blah blah. Look, I don't think he's necessarily going to light the world on fire this year or snatch any like real minutes other than minutes that the Knicks need when there are injuries. However, I do think he showed in this game that he could potentially be as like a break in case of emergency option instead of Jericho Sims at the 4. You might be able to look Isaiah Roby's way. I wasn't like super in love with his overall game, but like the shooting seems pretty good. I mean, he has a nice form. He was showing good range and he looked very comfortable stretching the floor out of the 4 spot. So from that alone, shooting 3 of 4 from 3, 4 of 6 overall in this game, like I'm not willing to jump fully on the Roby train yet and be like, get this guy a full deal, find him some minutes, whatever. Like, but I do think I like this guy as like a break in case of emergency option in case you need some extra shooting out of that 4 spot.
Yeah, look, he didn't shoot it great last year on the Spurs, but also wasn't playing big minutes, only 11 minutes per game. Shot it at 30% the year before that, though, when he was playing bigger minutes, 21 minutes a game for the Thunder. He shot it at an extremely impressive 44%. I almost don't care that he was almost taking 2 per game. That's like a pretty decent sample size over the course of a season. It's 93s or so. And yeah, the form looked good. His activity level's really good. I probably prefer him in there over Jericho Sims as a 4. And look, Sims at a 4 had I thought tonight was probably the best it's looked all preseason. And you mentioned the fast break that those 3 run. There was even a play in the half court where Sims drove and had a Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett style, up and under pass to Mitchell Robinson that led to free throws. His activity level was really good at the rim. Sims had a couple of block shots, but it's the offense will just tank if you have Jericho Sims out there, and someone who can provide a modicum of respect from 3 and at 6'8", 230 pounds. Obviously that's not that much bigger than someone like RJ Barrett, but those 2-3 inches matter. Like a chance in certain matchups. I think certainly has some utility. But we mentioned Sims. We also got to mention the other 2 centers. I thought, Alex, this was another really solid performance from Mitchell Robinson and even more so Isaiah Hartenstein.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, so I got to bring up my favorite play of the whole game. Yeah, there was a play in the first half where Mitchell, actually, I think it was one of the first plays of the game. It was very early on. Mitch gets the ball off of, I think it was a Deuce steal. I think Deuce poked it away, if I'm not mistaken. And Mitch just happened to be up top, and Sims was kind of on the wing playing defense. And they got out on a fast break together. And it was sick, man. They ran the floor. Mitch found Sims in transition, and he gets a big dunk. And I think that was on KP too, which made it even sweeter. KP kind of got caught between these two. And I don't know. I do feel like there's a certain energy from Mitch whenever he plays against Porzingis, kind of knowing that it was a different regime, obviously, but the Knicks all those years ago chose him over Porzingis in many ways because they said, you know what, we feel comfortable enough with this guy that we feel comfortable trading Kristaps Porzingis and getting the return we can get because he doesn't want to be here and yada yada. We don't want to give him the money, all this other stuff. And Mitch always seems to sort of take that matchup a little personal, just based off at least body language and intensity level and everything. So I'm sure that probably felt good for him to dime up Jericho Sims for a big dunk at Porzingis's expense on that end. But otherwise, I thought that so Mitch and Hartenstein, I don't want to say they got exposed in this game at all, but they certainly, their limitations were put on display a little bit as far as being able to guard a team like the Celtics that is going to potentially throw out lineups where every single person on the floor can shoot the 3. And that's very dangerous to the Knicks. And so for that reason, I started off a little bit wary and a little bit worried with those 2. And yet, as the game went on, they sort of found ways to make up for that. There were still some 3s here and there that were given up, but I thought they did an admirable job sticking on the perimeter as well as they could. And then they both just really took advantage of their strength advantage on the inside, of their ability to get rebounds and box out these smaller teams and create those advantages that the Knicks created all of last year, which made them such a great offensive rebounding team. So, yeah, I was very encouraged by it, even if sometimes the Knicks are going to find some teams with shooting 5s that is going to make life difficult on them and their scheme and their particular personnel arrangement. I think they did a pretty good job of showing how they can sort of counteract that in this game.
Yeah, I think the fundamental issue there is if you told Mitchell Robinson, hey, just press up on Kristaps Porzingis and don't let him score, he would do an exceptionally good job of it. It comes into play because his rim protection is so essential to the Knicks. He's kind of caught in between, and all Tibbs has drilled into his head for the last 4 years now is stay by the rim, stay by the rim, stay by the rim. And against someone like KP, the Knicks are generally very willing to just let centers bomb away from 3, and they say hey, we don't really believe in you as a shooter over the course of a game or over the course of a series or over the course of 4 matchups in a regular season. You're going to miss enough that this is worth it for us, that we don't break the structure of our defense. The Celtics shooting is so good that it's going to break the Knicks structure a little bit. And honestly, if Julius Randle was out, this is almost a game where I would be okay playing Jericho Sims as the starting power forward, because you almost need a secondary rim protector, someone else who can come flying in and help block some shots. We saw Sims, I mentioned earlier, but do that once on Tatum, once on Horford, and he was really good at that. And Boston, I think, almost isn't used to seeing bodies at the rim with all the shooting they have this year. But you know what? Boston's probably the best roster in the league. They're going to give everyone trouble. So if that's the form they give the Knicks trouble, that'll be the case. I'd have to go back and study it, but I know Wally was really emphasizing the Knicks making adjustments after halftime, and I thought that obviously the score showed they did a good job after halftime. I just noticed this, but both Mitch and Grimes in this game where they were both in when the Knicks were down by 27, somehow both had a positive plus minus tonight. So that's an indicator of some of the great stuff that they were doing. The one starter we didn't mention yet, and then we should get to Isaiah Hartenstein real quick because I thought he was really good, was Dante DiVincenzo, 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. I was a little disappointed his efficiency in this game was just kind of bombing away from 3. Again, that was a product partially of the lane being clogged, partially of the Celtics defenders being so good. But you saw some of the limitations of his ability to create, which I think will shine much brighter when he's in the bench unit. He's something like the 3rd option on the bench unit instead of the number 2 or 3 option or starting lineup going against a loaded defense. But as the game went along, Alex, he found a rhythm and made some pretty big shots for the Knicks.
Yeah, they noted on the broadcast that he's starting to look a little more comfortable, and I think I felt that too. That's probably why Tibbs prioritized playing him in this game when so many other guys, in his sort of like age bracket got more of a break in this game. I think it was kind of just like, hey, you still got to get a little acclimated here, dude. Like, we need to make sure that you're, up to speed. And I feel like he's getting there. I like that there is as many possessions as there are with him sort of initiating and bringing the ball down. And he ran the break a lot in this game as well, which I think is going to be something that he and Josh Hart are going to have so much fun doing all year with that bench unit, provided they both stay healthy the whole year, which I hope happens. But just even having him bring it down with the second unit and set things up from time to time, one of Quickly's best strengths, and certainly one of the best ways to get him going if he's kind of a little cold, is spot up threes. And the more guys you can have out there that can handle the ball instead of Quickly a bit with that second unit, the more you can take advantage of that and create some nice spot up opportunities for him to kind of get in his rhythm. So yeah, it's been a little rocky, but all in all, I was fine with how things went for DiVincenzo. He shot 25%, shot 3 of 10 from 3. So clearly he's willing to get that volume up, and they were all pretty clean looks. I think they just didn't quite go in enough, and then got to the free throw line 6 times too. So sort of filled that like RJ role, I guess, tonight, to get to the free throw line a bit and kind of keep the other team honest that way. But all in all, I think a very solid performance for Dante in this one. And I'm really excited to see when the Knicks do the full thing, hopefully in their final preseason game tonight, just how good he can look in that final actualized role before we get rolling into the regular season.
Yeah, I want to see. We haven't seen him and Hart for substantial minutes together yet, so that's exciting to me, both in that game tonight and opening night. But Isaiah Hartenstein, one final shout out, because he was maybe the Knicks outside of Grimes, maybe their best player in this game. Just did so many different things. I loved he had this one play where he ducked in from the top of the key for a cut and a layup. But if the Knicks, we were talking about this a little bit on the KFS pod that is yet to drop, but if the Knicks are going to position him a little bit more on the perimeter and let him facilitate from there, there are going to be opportunities where defenses just sort of forget about him, and he's able to cut to the basket and get layups. He made another 3-pointer in this game. He had a great drive and lefty finish on KP, which I always gets me fired up. Vicious putback slam. He got to bully Delano Banton on one play, had one possession where he got 3 straight offensive rebounds before eventually getting a layup. He just seems like he's in midseason form to me, the level of effort, focus, intensity, and the kind of shape that he's in. He just seems like cardio-wise and strength-wise, him and Mitchell Robinson both are just specimens at the center position. And that is a great thing for Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, I think the new ink is working for Hartenstein too. I don't know, that new tattoo sleeve looks pretty sick and makes him look a little more menacing. Even if he's even if he also put on, clearly, I think he put on a little bit of muscle this offseason. It's easy to forget, but he is basically the same age as Mitch too.
Yep.
He feels like he's older for whatever reason, maybe because he's the backup and the Knicks kind of signed him as a free agent. So you always kind of relate that to guys that are more in their prime, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But he and Mitch are both kind of at the same point in their career, and they're clearly kind of growing together in their mid-20s now. And I think they're both kind of starting to reach their physical peak at this point. So I'm excited to see them do that together this year. Other than that, I don't have too many more notes. A lot of guys saw minutes in this game. A lot of guys hit the floor, but it's kind of hard to take too much away from most of it because most of these guys are not going to be playing. They'll probably be playing for the Westchester Knicks, which is fine. Daquan Jeffries did go 3 of 6 overall, 2 of 5 from 3. He had a couple nice moments. He was one of the ones that famously got called Quentin Grimes by Kenny Albert on one play. It confused the hell out of me because
Badge
he drove
of
in.
honor, honestly.
Yeah, I was like, that was not Quentin Grimes. Why are you saying it was Grimes? And then on the way back, he was like, oh, actually, that was Daquan Jeffries with the last basket. Like, okay, thanks.
That was Carl Braun with the shot.
Yeah, Carl Braun. And yeah, then Archie Diacono, Nathan Knight, Charlie Brown Jr. all played some minutes. Archie Diacono, I mean, I know he's part of the Villanova contingent. I'm sorry, I just don't really see it with him. I don't think he's gonna make the main roster this year.
Great hair, Alex. He has great hair.
He does have great hair. He's a nice looking dude. He's got great hair, whatever. But I think he'll probably be playing for the Westchester Knicks or perhaps for another team. Nate Knight and Charlie Brown Jr. just not a ton of time to really draw any real conclusions. And then Evan Fournier got 20 minutes again. It probably his worst game of the preseason so far. So certainly not worth noting anything compared to the previous games because he wasn't really scoring well. And he also really was not defending very well. Like Jason Tatum just absolutely destroyed him a number of times. So yeah, I think I'm pretty well set on this game at this point.
Yeah, me too. We will see you guys for one final preseason tune-up, and then we have a couple of really exciting pods, some great guests to get you ready for the regular season over the weekend, over Monday and Tuesday. But until then, he's Alex. I'm Gavin. We will talk to you very soon on Locked On Knicks.